Hi, and welcome to another session of IELTS speaking mock test. I am the IELTS test taker Rajendra Pokhrel, and you are watching my YouTube channel UB's Flair. I am on a continuous streak of taking an IELTS speaking mock test. I am taking this test from jumpinto.com, and if you want to take this kind of mock test, you can also directly go to the jumpinto.com website and you can just keep test from that website after logging in. So today is the 18th day of taking an IELTS speaking mock test, and let's begin this today's test. The first topic is about jewelry, and now you will hear questions from my laptop speaker.
How often do you wear jewelry?
Well, talking about jewelries, I don't wear jewelry because in tradition from our country Nepal, there isn't most of the jewelries are worn by females or the women's, and there is no culture of wearing jewelries by men's. But uh, despite that, most men like to wear some certain rings and bracelet in their hands, may be made of gold and silver, and sometimes I do wear those kind of jewelry also.
What type of jewelry do you like best?
I don't have that particular segment of jewelries that I like the most, but in general, I like to wear simple and not much sophisticated and eternally designed jewelries. I like to wear simple bracelets or maybe chains in my neck or just simple rings. And I like to wear jewelries that reflect the cultural value rather than the appearance or their beauty. And there is also a culture in Nepal that if you wear certain jewelries given by some religious people, then it's good for you also.
When do people like to give jewelry in your country?
Well, gifting jewelries in my country Nepal is like cultural and as well as is a cultural thing, and it has been practiced for many years. Most people give jewelries to their relatives and friends in different occasions like family gatherings like birthdays or maybe cultural programs like Dasai and Tiyar. And these are also the one of the largest or one of the highly recognized festivals in Nepal as per the Hindu religion. And during these occasions, most people gift jewelries and other gift and other sort of things to each other, and this helps to build a mutual cooperation and understanding as well as respect between them.
Have you ever given jewelry to someone as a gift?
Yes, I have given some jewelry to my sister. I gifted her a sweet small golden necklace, but it was a huge gift for her. Although it carried a small money or a low budget, but that meant a lot to her. Mm, and I have to say, I also gifted a ring and a bracelet to my close friend, and she was quite happy after receiving that bracelet. So this is the end of today's IELTS speaking section 1, and now we will move on to section 2. Let's go. The section 2 is about the describe an interesting TV program. You asked about topic, and I have to say what topic is this program was about. Let's listen here the questions. Well, talking about a TV program and that I watched recently, and the particular program about the science topic, I have to say I had watched a TV program related to space technology in Discovery Channel, and that comes in my home TV that is connected with Dishom. I like to watch those kind of programs that majorly focus on science, technology, and space, as they are aligned to my career as well as personal uh, preferences. I just saw that program like 2 months ago, and that program was about an astronaut that landed on the moon, and that astronaut was Neil Armstrong, and it was a purely and originally documented program. Although although some of the footages were from the real incident, but most of these incidents were shot or refilmed in the shot in controlled environments. But that was a well prepared documentary. After watching that documentary, I really knew a lot of things about the space, how gravity performs there, and what can be the objections or difficulties that a space company or astronauts may can feel or may can face while going to a space program. I really like these kind of TV programs because that perfectly aligns with my personal preference, as I said earlier. But this particular program helped me to gain more not in-depth knowledge about the space programs and how space programs are carried in laboratories like NASA. And talking about NASA, it was one of the largest organizations in space sector, and that is established in USA. So I came to know about this NASA organization from this TV program, and I also knew that there are a lot of programs that are being organized for space missions, and I really wish to and hope to watch other follow-up programs or sequels of that documentary film. This was the end of today's speaking test session 2. Now let's move on to section 3.
How interested are most people in your country in science?
Well, most of the people of like adulthood, I have to say adulthood, or 14 to 30s aged people are quite interested in science, because this is the only section or segment of age group in Nepal which is educated on these terms like space technology, science, and also and maybe engineering. During the earlier years, most of the people couldn't have chance to go to the school and receive a formal education, so particularly know about the they don't particularly know about the science and technology terms, particularly our grandfather and father children. But the people of my age are quite interested in watching science programs, and even most of the peoples of my age can perfectly use those newly science innovations like AI and like modern vehicles that can fly in the air. Similarly, most of the people in my country of my age really understand what someone is talking about, and based on science correlations, and most of the people in my country are quite interested in knowing things like how does a car works, how does a plane flies, and how does a fish even swims in water, and why how we are evolved. So yeah, I have to say a lot of people in my country, particularly of this Gen Z generation, are quite interested in science.
Why do you think children today might be better at science than their parents?
As I said earlier, there was not quite infrastructure for education during our parents or grandparents' time, so they couldn't go to school and they couldn't receive a formal education, and which ultimately affected their understanding in science topic. But talking about the children of today's time, there are a lot of schools and colleges and even tuition centers which educate these children in different topics, and particularly science. So I have to say, due to these formal educations and facilities, most of the children in today's time are quite forward in science as compared to their parents, and their parents also know that, and now these parents also know the importance of science and technology for their students via different social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and or maybe other platforms like Google. So most of the parents send their children to school to acquire formal education, and that's why most of the children in today's time are much forward and much intellectual towards science topic rather than their parents.
How do you suggest the public can learn more about scientific developments?
Well, I have to say, if someone wants to learn a particular thing about science and development, they can read the available newspapers, magazines, or news articles, and this can be the basic or the most basic source of information for any people. So if they could grab a newspaper that are faced to them daily, then they can really understand what is happening around the world and what are the recent missions or that are the missions that are being planned for the next 10 years. And but in today's time, people also can just open their mobile or cell phones and was and open their social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and from there they can also know the advancement or the news related to science and technology. In short, most of the people in today's time have smartphone in their hands and they can easily grasp knowledge about science and development from there. But if someone is too focused on this topic, then they can also listen to different YouTube podcasts, or they can buy some magazines or recordings from different studios that particularly focus on science topic. So yeah, there are a lot of means and resources from where these people of any age can grasp the knowledge about science and development.
What do you think are the most important scientific discoveries in the last 100 years?
Well, in the last 100 years, the most significant scientific development should be, I think, is related to mechanical engineering and computer engineering. As you see even in the last 40 or like 50 years ago, there were a lot of steam engines and that purely run on steam. But in today's time, there are a lot of engines that really work on petrol and petroleum based products, and even there are engines which run entirely on gas power. And also there has been a lot of development in energy sectors, like even there are a lot of hydrogen based vehicles that are running in the world. And similarly, there has been a lot of advancement in computer science sector also, like we can like the recent developments of AI platforms like ChatGPT, Grok, or maybe Gemini. These kinds of platforms are really impacted a lot of people's lives in different sectors. Like, for example, you can just open your smartphone and ask anything on ChatGPT or Grok, then you will get the correct answer within a second, and you don't even need a lecturer or a expert to find this kind of answer. So yeah, I have to say, artificial intelligence and industrial and mechanical engineering are the most advancement that has been happened in the last 100 years.
Do you agree or disagree that there aren't any more major scientific discoveries left to make?
Although there are a lot of advancements have been made in engineering and technology sector, but there is still many more is there is still many more to be discovered. Uh, like in today's time, we cannot uh, purely manage the fuel efficiency in different automobile sectors, and there is a lot of research gap in that topic. Similarly, even in today's time, a lot of highly equipped airplanes are flying, but there is not a technology where a single car can just drive on the road and simultaneously fly in the air without any extra charges or maybe equipments. So yeah, I have to say there is a lot of advancement and engineering uh, being engineering lacking in these sectors. Similarly, even in even though AI or artificial intelligence is quite advancing in today's time, there is a lot of gap between the what can be achieved in future and the available technology of today's time. Even though AI like ChatGPT and Grok can give you a particular region or a reasoning based answer, but they cannot re- truly research that answer, and they cannot decide whether it's right and wrong. And even in the robotic sector, there is a lot of research gap. Like even the robot can do certain household things and industrial things, but they are not built in such a way that they really understand the human emotions and feeling. So in next 10 or 50 years, and that this kind of research gap can be minimized, and a human will truly uh, cap the intelligence sector and science and technology field.
Who should pay for scientific research? Governments or private companies?
Well, that's a quite difficult question, but this can. But I have to say, if the but I think that if the research-led programs are truly for the benefit of nation or the world, then this kind of research projects or research methodologies or research programs will be fully financed or sponsored by the government. But if a certain company or individual is researching for his personal gain or other organizational gain, then that particular organization should finance for those kind of research projects. But saying so, there are a lot of individuals that are working for themselves, but the research they could find and can impact the overall development or growth of the nation. So in those scenarios, then government can finance or sponsor those kinds of research. But it truly depends upon the objectives of the research. So if the objective is to aligns with the government preferences and government plans and proceedings, then a government should finance those kind of research. For example, most of the research-led programs in USA are financed by NASA, and NASA is also a government organization. So yeah, I have to say there has to be a balanced way between to finance the research-based organizations, research-based programs by the government and the private organizations. So that's the end of today's speaking mock test, and I think I have already done this test earlier, and the score was band. And let's check today's band, and the band for first session is, I have to say, 6.5, and for the second it has to be even less, and it is 6, and for the third session it has to be 6 or 6.5. The answer is being calculated, and maybe I think it will be 6. So thanks for watching. That's the end of today's speaking mock test. I will be back again with another episode of IELTS speaking test, and till then, stay happy, stay focused, and stay subscribed to UB's Flair.